When you're spending the day at Inks Lake State Park and the heat of the day hits, the best way to get away from it is to go underground. Drive a few miles down Park Road 4 to Longhorn Cavern State Park to beat the heat. The Civilian Conservation Corps got a little farther with Longhorn Caverns than they did with Inks Lake. The park hosts a handful of CCC structures, but their standout work can be found below ground. Over the millennia, the caverns have sheltered many people from prying eyes of those they're avoiding. Native Americans used the caves to avoid other tribes and to avoid Caucasian colonists. Local brigand Sam Bass used it for a hideout, and the Confederate Army stored powder kegs in its depths. Finally, in the 1920s, the underground location made it perfect to imbibe during the Prohibition era. In the 1930s, the land of the park became part of an interesting arrangement. The acres above ground belonged to Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. The last private owner didn't trust the government to manage the caverns, so they deeded the caverns to private management. The CCC was brought in to construct the facilities in the park and to excavate more of the cavern. In total, the CCC removed about 2.5 million tons of silt and debris from the cave. Because of the unique management setup, your state park's pass can stay in your wallet. The fees all go to the management corporation, so the pass doesn't get holders any discounts on entry, which runs about $17.50 per adult. It's still worth it. The bats of this cave are also different. Most bats in the hill country live in colonies like the Mexican free-tailed bat. The residents of this cave live mostly solitary existences, and they're among the smallest bat species in the world. This tiny little tricolored bat species is also sometimes called the eastern pipistrelle. We spotted several on our tour, so when you see all the cell phones suddenly point their cameras up, that means the group has spotted another bat. It doesn't matter how hot it gets on the surface, the cave stays right around 68 degrees, which is pretty close to my ideal room temperature. This feature, Rocky the Rockweiler, looks like it was sculpted by human hands. It's actually a natural feature, a very popular natural feature. Most people think of caves like Carlsbad Caverns, formed by dripping water bearing calcium that leaves deposits that become stalactites and stalagmites. Longhorn Cavern was formed by flowing water. An underground river cut the cavern out of the Llano uplift. In many places, the cavern resembles an underground slot canyon. Deep in the cavern, you can see places where cavitation has created billions of dimples and holes in the walls of the cave. The high-speed crashing of water being forced around bends and curves causes the water to churn into bubbles, kind of like carbonation bubbles, that explode with enough force to chip the rock away. This creates the dimples that you see in the cave walls. And finally, we reach these crystal deposits at the end of the tour. Obviously, the red and green are lighted to look that way, but they're still pretty awesome. Thank you for joining us on our trip to the Longhorn Cavern State Park. Have a wonderful week.